There's still some question marks around the election results in a few ridings across the country. In Terra Nova-The Peninsulas, a riding in Newfoundland and Labrador, there are more than 1,000 disputed ballots that are being reviewed. Heather Gillis has more on when we may find out who the MP is.
It could take days to get a result in the Terra Nova-The Peninsula's recount. That's because there are 1,041 ballots in dispute. The judge says that is an unprecedented number of disputed ballots. Judge Garrett Handrigan says lawyers have grouped these ballots together in categories, and they've made submissions about each classification. Still, the judge says he's going to go through every single one of those disputed ballots, all 1,041 of them, and make a decision individually on each ballot. After the federal election, Liberal Anthony Germain won this riding by just 12 votes when he beat Jonathan Rowe, who was the Conservative candidate. Now, that is a margin so small that it triggered this automatic recount.
I'm just a little disappointed that we're probably going to wait to the last minute to decide if I actually get to go to Parliament or not. So I got to be patient. I mean, it is what it is, and it's going to take some time. Like all good things, take time.
Judgment Day is scary, and it can go either way. The judge is doing, we have a good system in Canada where there's a lot of safety measures, a lot of checks, and the judge understands the importance of taking everything into consideration and really doing a good, thorough job.
The judge says he will start sorting through some of these ballots as soon as Thursday. Still, this process is going to take time, and it could be into next week until we get a result in Terra Nova-The Peninsulas. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Marystown.
You may have questions about all of this, and we're joined by somebody who may have some of those answers. Scott Lemke has been counsel to Elections Ontario during provincial elections, as well as numerous by-elections. He's currently a partner at Massey LLP in Toronto with a practice in election law. Scott, you've been part of the ballot recount process. What's going on here right now in Newfoundland with this judge taking longer than expected to finish the count?
Well, it may be taking longer than expected because the riding, I understand, is a rural riding, and the votes that need to be recounted at each judicial recount, what there is there's a set number of recount teams that are set up by Elections Canada, and that consists of 2 elections officials and then a scrutineer for each candidate that is present at the recount. And as those ballots get recounted, the scrutineers have an opportunity to contest the counting of, whether or not those votes are properly counted under the Election Act. It can take a long time, especially if it's a rural riding and there are only so many people to count the ballots.
Here's the thing that surprised me, and I'm really curious to hear your view on this. About 41,000 ballots had been cast in this riding, and about 1,000 or more than 1,000 ballots are being contested. That's about 2.5%. Seems high to me. What's your view on that?
It's very high. What I would be doing if I was the judge in this instance is I would be encouraging counsel to work after hours and to deliver a joint submission to me with respect to certain ballots. Each counsel will have a photocopy of each disputed ballot by this point. And we'll be able to caucus outside of court hours. The recount usually runs from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and be able to make joint submissions on anything that they can agree on. And I would be strongly encouraging them to do their best to make a joint submission, notwithstanding that the judge at the end of the day will make the final call on each ballot.
We talked to a lawyer from Ottawa who has been involved in recounts in the past, and he said his experience with those recounts has been that it went relatively smoothly, and really it came down to all the people in the room trying to figure out what the true intention was of the voter. And he said there was one ballot that somebody had written Spartacus on the ballot, but it was also clear who that person was voting for. So it was allowed. And I wonder, in your experience with recounts, is it generally a smooth process, or is it an adversarial process in the room?
No, by its nature, it's an adversarial process. Elections Canada, in this case, I'm sure is doing an excellent job, but you have to remember each recount team is usually composed of retirees who are not experienced litigants, and they're sitting across from scrutineers who are vigorously advocating on behalf of the candidate that they represent. And so it can take a while. What happens first is the Elections Canada official will hold the ballot up and say, I see this as a vote for perhaps Mr. Germain, and then the scrutineers will have an opportunity to agree or disagree. And then if they agree, that vote goes into a certain pile, and then ultimately the votes are counted. So notwithstanding that election officials can do their best to make the day as seamless as possible, it can be very difficult in a hotly contested election.
I can't help but think how cynical people are south of the border when it comes to vote counting, and I think by contrast, Canadians generally are not. But let's finish with this. How much confidence should we have in the system here in Canada?
Oh, I think we should have complete confidence. I think we should take a lot of confidence from the fact that the judge is taking their time, and we're going to make sure that we get this right. We're not hurrying the recount teams to make decisions where 1,000 ballots is an extreme amount, but I have a lot of confidence that the right result will be arrived at eventually. And it's important to keep in mind that the Canada Elections Act requires these recount teams, counsel, and the judge to work through the weekend. So we will have a result as soon as possible.
Scott, thanks for your perspective. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.